all know that Lilith likes to release commanders every 2 to 3 months at the moment, and it's been quite a while since we've seen any actual new commanders in the game, since Gorgo and Lao Che were announced quite a while ago. And in today's video, I'll be trying to predict what commanders are going to come to the game next. Since Gorgo and Lao Che are fully in the game, Lilith is definitely working on which commanders are going to be entering next. So if you want to know which commanders might be coming to Rise of Kingdoms, based on informed guesses and information that I can gather from previous commander releases, you want to stick around till the end of the video. Now let's start off today's video with a real quick disclaimer, and that disclaimer is, I can't 100% guarantee anything that's coming to the game because I don't have any secret knowledge, there are no leaks at the moment, and Lilith is a company at the end of the day that gets to decide for themselves. We don't get to decide what's coming to the game, so all I can do is make predictions based on what they've previously released, and also try and speculate off some older commanders that Lilith might be copying as to what some new commanders could be having in their kits. So that is the main premise of this video. It is all just speculation at the end of the day. I don't actually know what is coming to the game. So now that the disclaimer is out of the way, let's start off with my first of 3 predictions of what could be coming to the game. And the first prediction is engineering commanders. 2 new engineering commanders are certainly a possibility of commanders that could be coming within the next few months, because Lilith is definitely a fan of range commanders. They've been buffing these commanders slowly, adding different things, tweaking them a little bit, which is something we've never really seen done before. Lilith rarely buffs commanders. They might reword a few skills when they're written wrong, but that's the only thing we ever really see. So we can definitely say that seeing more range commanders is on the table, because Lilith buffing a commander is very alien, and them adding more commanders to make range players even more viable is certainly a possibility, because if they want to make ranged a proper thing you can use, people need more than just one march to play with. Because yes, I've seen some players do really well with just one siege march, but the biggest issue is you can't go all in on a troop type and only use one march. A lot of players want to run 3, 4, 5, 6 marches, and currently with just 2 commanders, Siege are definitely not in the position to do that. So we could certainly be seeing more Siege commanders. And what even adds more to this is that the last cycle of commanders before this one even started, we saw cavalry, infantry, and then we actually saw the engineering plus Heracles. So we can definitely also expect that the cycle could follow into engineering commanders, because the last cycle we got was 2 normal commanders plus the engineering, and then we got archers, which is obviously not the normal cycle we follow. But if this is the new cycle, then we can certainly be seeing engineering commanders within the next few updates, because it would follow the new cycle of commander releases. So seeing new siege and range commanders is certainly a possibility. And as for their skills, I can't really guarantee much. I can't even try and predict of what they would be. The only thing I could guess is there might be a chance of seeing some smite commander, because Margaret I has a lot of ranged normal attack, like around 70% total ranged normal attack in her kit, which is pretty high. So there is a chance we see some smite range commanders, but even then, that's a lot of speculation right there, only based off 2 skills that Margaret has, because she also has a lot of skill damage in her kit as well, which doesn't affect range damage. So there is a chance we see some smite range commanders, maybe 2 smite range commanders, maybe just 1 that pairs well with Margaret, but none of that is also guaranteed. And there is also a chance that we see no range commanders as well. So I think there's a decent chance we do see range commanders. I think they may have smite damage, they may not. But if we do see range commanders, I'm going to predict it's going to be a whole nother pairing, because if they release range commanders, they want players to use more marches, and that means they'd want to have 2 more commanders. I don't think they're going to release 1 standalone commander. I don't think they'll release more than 2, but 2 range commanders is certainly a possibility for the future. The next prediction I have for a possible release in the future is actually 2 more leadership commanders, and I think if they were to add 2 leadership commanders, it's fairly obvious the route they would go. The first thing they would do is probably add a different version of Trajan, because we got an upgrade to Mehmed and Caesar, and that was a Honda. Honda is a very, very strong commander, and he's kind of like a better Mehmed, kind of like a better Caesar. In some ways, he's almost like a better Ethelfled. He works as a really, really good secondary with just about any commander in the game. So I don't think we're going to see a better Honda. He's still fairly meta viable. I doubt they would add another Honda if they add more leadership. But one commander that's starting to fall out of the meta a little bit, actually quite a lot, is definitely Trajan. Because when we look at Trajan on the open field currently, especially for KVK fighting, he is lackluster, because if you're running 7 DPS marches, they just perform overall better than if you had a Trajan. So most players, especially newer players to the game and players who don't have Trajan, are not going out of their way to invest in him, because you look at his kit and it's like, yes, it's strong, it's powerful, but I can just go with 7 strong DPS marches. that will do better than having a Trajan inside that murder ball. So Trajan is definitely a commander that's falling out of the meta, and if they were to add a leadership commander, a Trajan 2.0 or a commander who synergizes really well with Trajan and buffs even more to your murder ball is certainly a possibility, because if Lilith wants to make at least one buffing march a viable thing, we could be seeing a Trajan 2.0 or someone who works well with Trajan to bring him back into the meta, plus make a buff march more viable, and also allow this new commander to have use on the open field. So a definite possibility is a stronger version of Trajan. I don't think it's going to be a direct copy. We might see something that's giving a lot of normal attack damage bonuses, because we can see Trajan actually gives skill damage bonuses, and normal attack would be good if they move into a smite meta. So in that situation, we could be seeing a lot of normal attack damage bonus on a buffing commander, which would A, help players who already run normal commanders, even if you don't have smite damage, and B, give that commander a lot of investment potential for a possible smite meta. So I don't think it's out of the picture to see a Trajan 2.0, a really, really strong buffing commander, who has probably got low damage factor, but lots of different buffs they give you. Like Trajan is giving rage restoration, he's giving skill damage increases, he's got a ton in his kit, and he's super tanky. So a Trajan with like a weak, squishy, very buff heavy commander is certainly a possibility we could be seeing for the future, and this commander might change how murder balls are run again, because when Trajan was first released, he was probably one of the first ever major buffing commanders, and he changed every single murder ball. Anyone that was running 5 or more commanders got a Trajan, because he would literally just carry that murder ball since he was that strong. But since now the DPS commanders are way more stronger, you need to add a stronger buffing commander to make Trajan meta again, and I think that is definitely something Lilith might be doing, if not already working on, because it would be good to have more and strong buffing marches available for big open field brawls once again. The second leadership commander I'm going to predict they might add is actually another leadership rally, and you know why I say that? Well, we've seen a leadership garrison, that was Heracles, and then we also have had a leadership rally in the past, and that is Suleiman, but Suleiman absolutely flopped. He was just a bad commander in about every single way, but Heracles certainly did not flop. When we see Heracles in the garrison meta, he is a very, very strong commander. He is your pretty much best generic commander that works with any garrison commander in the game. So anyone that wants to run garrison would go out of their way to get a Heracles, because he would work with just about anyone, and you don't have to specifically target any specific commanders or any specific troop sets. And another thing is, we also have leadership gear nowadays, so we can definitely be expecting some form of a leadership rally. And if we see a leadership rally, I don't think it's going to be like Suleiman, who is a very weak commander that only kind of synergizes with himself and like a few other commanders. I think that if they add a leadership rally, they're going to go for something similar to how Heraclius is actually run, because Heraclius, he's a good garrison with every single current garrison commander. So if they were to add a leadership rally, then I would hope this rally is good with every current rally commander. So for example, you could run a Henry, who's mainly an archer troop, with mixed units, and that would be perfectly fine. Or you could run a Tariq, who's a mainly infantry rally, with mixed units, and that would be really, really good as well. Or even a Justinian, a Cav commander, with mixed units, and that should also be powerful. So I believe that's what they might go for in that rally. I think they would keep it balanced so they wouldn't make it be like overpowered, because you can use mixed troops, and obviously that is going to be a very valuable part of that rally. Even if you do take more deads, you can maybe even put siege in it. Then we could be expecting the leadership rally to not trade as good, but also have the utility of being able to just throw anything in it, which is something Heracles really does actually have to his advantage, is that he can put any troops in there. And if they add a rally like that, then we could really be seeing a new, strong meta leadership type of rally. Maybe not absolute meta, but an option to use, a viable and strong option for the rally meta currently in the game, and it would add a little bit more diversity in the open field, because Heraclius definitely added garrison diversity. If they added a mixed rally that is not like Suleiman but still very powerful, then that could even add some more rally diversity as well. Now, my final prediction for commanders coming to the game is actually archer commanders, and the reason I say this is because if Lilith switches back to the old cycle where it went cavalry, infantry, archers, and then engineering leadership, we could actually be seeing archers release into the game again. But if they stick to the old cycle of cavalry, infantry, leadership, and engineering, plus archers at the end, then archers would not be the next release. So this prediction pretty much is based on whichever commander they release first. But if Lilith decided to release archers, I think it's really simple what they would do. First of all, they're going to add another rally commander, because we know that Gorgo, the current infantry garrison, who is definitely going to be meta when she's fully in the game, will be pretty much absolutely dominant. She's going to be so powerful, it is not funny. Like, she's going to be one of the strongest garrison commanders we've ever seen, because when we looked at her reports when she was basically weaker due to the testing simulator making her slightly weaker, we would actually see her beating pretty much every single rally. She decimated calves, she decimated archers, she absolutely floored infantry. Like, she was probably one of, if not the strongest garrisons out there, and due to that fact, we could certainly be seeing a very powerful, basically, archer rally coming in to counter that Gorgo garrison, because if we have her as an absolute meta for super long, and that means we have a whole leadership cycle before we get archers, she's going to be absolutely dominating for like 6 months, and with the garrison and rally meta, it is forever changing. We rarely see a commander remain in the garrison or rally meta state for over 6 months, and if they were to keep Gorgo in that state, then it will not be unhealthy, but it would be something that they never usually do. So I think that getting an archer rally who synergizes really well with Henry is certainly a possibility. As for the open field commanders with archers, I would say fairly confidently we will be seeing another primary commander, because Zulang is definitely a secondary commander. Not many people run him as a primary unless you're using like a Zulang YSG, which is obviously not the meta combination, and due to that fact, I wouldn't say it's too crazy to predict another Boudica-like commander, who is a very, very strong primary, possibly has a faster rage cycle, since we've seen that with infantry now in terms of Gorgo. She has a faster rage cycle, and obviously Cavs have always had Zhang Yu, and now also have Hao Bing, who has a faster rage cycle, so we can certainly be seeing an archer primary commander who's a bit more squishy in some regards, that has a faster rage cycle to pair well with maybe Zulang, or maybe with a YSG, or really any other archer commander. I don't think that's out of the books, and maybe even possibly a smite damage archer commander. I don't think that's too insane as well, but I think that one's a little bit more far-fetched, because if we do look at a smite damage archer commander, archers are very skill damage based. I don't see why they would make smite damage commanders. So I don't think we would see a smite damage archer commander, but it is still a possibility if they were to add archers. So we could be seeing a smite damage primary commander, or we could just be seeing a typical skill damage with a strong debuff who's somewhat tanky or very squishy primary commander. So we might see like a Nebu, or we might see another version of Boudica or Henry as a primary commander to pair well with Zulang or other archer commanders that are currently in the meta. So I don't think it's too far-fetched to predict new archer primary commanders with a decent archer rally. That is certainly possible, and this archer rally may be like Henry, where they perform really well on the open field, because Ditto, definitely not an open field performing commander, but if they added a new archer rally who is well on the open field like almost Gorgo and also like Henry currently is, then archers will be in a better position, and it would be fairly balanced. They'll be able to counter Lao Che possibly, and also counter the new Gorgo garrison meta. So now, out of all the predictions I gave, which one do I think has the highest chance of occurring? And really simply, I think that the two highest probable ones are either new range commanders, because Lilith is obviously a big fan of range commanders. They're trying to push them somewhere. I wouldn't say that one's too far-fetched. That's certainly a possibility. Or we could see new archer commanders. I can't say one is more likely than the other, because it just depends on what Lilith chooses, whether they choose to stick to the old commander release cycle where it goes cavalry, infantry, archers, then leadership and engineering, or if they go back to the new release cycle and they go cavalry, infantry, engineering, then archers. So it depends on which one they release first. I think that the most probable one is actually engineering, because I think infantry haven't had much time in the meta, especially to shine, since they've been second hand for quite a while, but now they're in the meta for quite a bit. I think Lilith wants to keep infantry there for a little bit longer. So if I were to guess which commanders are going to come first, I want to say the engineering will come before the archers, to give infantry, especially Lao Che, more time in the spotlight and allow more players to invest in him and more players to reignite their infantry marches, so that Lilith can continue to capitalize on infantry and make more infantry commanders and keep them in a balanced position. So I think my main prediction of what commanders are going to be coming next in Rise of Kingdoms are two new range commanders, possibly with smite damage, who pair really well with Margaret, or we could just be seeing two new really unique range commanders who have smite damage and pair only really well with each other, and then Margaret and Barbara stay as one march on their own. So now that we've made it to the end of today's video, I'm really curious to know, what do you guys think is coming to the game? Because I've put out my views of what I think is coming to the game, but I haven't heard from you guys yet. So let me know in the comments down below, which commanders do you think are coming to the game? Do you think they're going to be infantry, archers, leadership, calves, engineering, maybe even integration? What commanders do you think are coming to the game next? Let me know down below in the comments. I always try to read every single comment and reply to every single comment, and your comments are also very much appreciated. I would also like to say one more thing. I'm going to probably miss my next upload or two because I have exams coming up and I have to study for them. So you might not see a video from me for the next 3 to 4 days. Just know that's because I am studying right now, but I'll be back to the normal upload schedule very, very soon. Now, I just want to say thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next one.